Good morning and welcome to the trade setup right here on BloombergQuint Live. I'm Neeraj Shah, and it's going to be a slightly tough start, accounting for the 2 days of the performance that the Asian markets have had and our own COVID and lockdown related issues. The numbers continue to spike, unfortunately, and while Mumbai and Maharashtra seem to have just, well, I won't call it stabilized, but have given a bit of a pause to the upward manic trajectory. The other states are now starting to chip in. So there is a bit of an issue at hand. But thankfully, the lockdowns are not coming in. Maharashtra, for example, has increased the stringent measures, but it's not a lockdown, and therefore that should be viewed maybe slightly positively. Anyways, first, the world markets and the US markets had a bit of strength yesterday, but weakness day before. And therefore, I don't think we will read too much into what the global cues are indicating. There is a bit of a sentiment uplift today in the Asian screen as well, but US, of course, did reasonably well yesterday. Like I said, Asia seems to be doing okay for itself. So if you look at across the Asian bourses, save for maybe Shanghai, almost all the other indices actually have a fairly decent outing in the session. So that is actually a good news. Japan is bouncing back really, really strongly. Now, keep in mind, when it comes to Asia, there's this other thing. Amidst the China woes, the credit default swaps had risen quite considerably. Investment grade CDS, by the way, and those are stabilizing after spiking amidst the China woes. So that's one more factor to keep in mind. What about the Sgx Nifty? Well, indicates a start of about 14,175, between 14,150 to 14,200 or thereabouts. Now, this is, if it starts at about 14,175 odd, it is below both Monday and Tuesday's lows, and that may not be great. However, I think when you look at the trade setup today, with an assumption that we start around 14,150, 14,200, or let's say somewhere around there, I think the contra long trade may work in favor of the bulls. We probably at levels from where select contra long trades on index stocks could actually work really well. So keep that in mind. I mean, I look at every single report from every analyst worth its salt on banking, and everybody's bullish on frontline banks. They are correcting quite significantly. You might never know. Bank Nifty's underperformed quite massively, and there might be a bit of a contra trade out there. Please choose it very, very carefully. I'm just saying it out of my reading, but we'll monitor this. If 14,150 is where some of the indicators give a contra long indication. Let's see if it works. Two-wheelers and financiers might be under pressure for the short term, I think. And I would presume that all of the life insurance companies would be in focus post the strong performance in March, particularly SBI Life. But I think SBI Life and HDFC Life, both of them had a pretty good show for the month of March. And ICICI Pru numbers were very, very strong. Most brokerages have given a thumbs up there. So I think, and Max Life, of course, undervalued compared to its peers. So all of them have something or the other going for it. And I think that should be viewed constructively by the street at large. So let's watch for some of these pockets. What about specific stocks? And that's where I think I was saying that why two-wheelers might be under a bit of a spot of bother. Now, there are two things when it comes to Hero. One, this is all from the release that they've given, that they're going to temporarily suspend manufacturing at all plants due to rapid rise in coronavirus cases. Now, this is a very short-term measure. Each plant will remain shut for about 4 days. So it's a staggered manner in which Hero MotoCorp will keep their plant shut between April 22nd to May 1st. But the key is that you can look at this statement both ways, right? The third statement, that company is saying that the shutdown won't impact its ability to meet demand. So therefore, that is good. But the bad news is that they're saying that it's anyways been impacted due to localized shutdowns in many states. So you got to think of it that here's the largest two-wheeler company saying that even if you keep our plant shut for 4 days, all the plants shut for 4 days, it will not have an impact on us being able to meet demand because demand has come off. Now, that might be viewed negatively, I would reckon, for two-wheelers at large and financiers. So do watch out for this pocket. Hero MotoCorp has some positive news as well. Everybody is talking about how Hero, is looking slightly behind the curve when it comes to EVs. Now, they've partnered with Gogoro for battery swapping. Nomura has come out of the note. The target price is 3561 and the rating is neutral. But they do believe that this will help Hero MotoCorp establish a presence in the electric two-wheeler ecosystem in India. So that's pretty interesting. They had a stake in a company called Ather, I think, but that notwithstanding, this will be a direct entry from Hero. So, yep, everybody's getting for it. Bajaj had a fabulous start to its electric two-wheeler launch, sold out in 2 days, whatever lot they wanted to give out. So let's see. The biggies are now starting to step in, and therefore all the fringe players should be cautious about it. Or investors into fringe players should be mapping what the impact could be. Nestle is the other one that came out with numbers. The numbers were well known, so I won't get into that. All of you would have read it really, but I'm bringing out the one keynote that I thought was very interesting, and that's Nomura on Nestle. They are maintaining a buy and a target price of 2,500. They are saying that they expect significant increase in new launches, product innovations supported by fresh capacities of Nestle. They expect stable sales growth with a positive bias for the company, and the company's strong focus on volume growth with increasing shift from the unorganized to the organized sector will propel higher sales growth going ahead. So they have reaffirmed their buy rating. Their EPS CAGR number is 15.5%. Let me tell you, if Nestle can do 15.5% over the next 3 years, there is no reason why the stock will not be higher from here. Is it expensive? Yes. Is it pricing in the best? Yes. But if they do 15% growth, then the valuations may not come off, because after all, the historical delivery of Nestle matters. Ever since the Maggi fiasco got done with, Nestle has outperformed all its peers, and that accounts for something, right? People have inherent belief in the ability of Nestle to execute. That's great news. Let's wait and watch. It may not react too much today, I must say. If you're an investor, maybe, just maybe, you don't give up on the stock. The numbers weren't bad. ICICI Securities came out with numbers. Again, they did not look bad. In fact, there were some positive surprises there. Revenues were up 53% and PAT was up about 111%. So that was the YOY performance. But the key thing is equities and allied revenues were up about 46%, which is pretty interesting. One would think that peak margin norms having come in, market share and revenues both would have taken some hit, but no, not really. Distribution income was up 22% and some of the other smaller ones were up. And they have had a highest quarterly client addition of 3.5 lakhs. Of course, this is all digitally acquired, low cost, low brokerage clients. So therefore, doesn't make a material difference. I mean, you can't extrapolate this addition of clients to revenues for ISEC because it's a different bucket altogether of client acquisition. But nevertheless, it is good news. And therefore, ISEC could be an interesting one. The other one would be 5paisa, by the way, which also came out with a pretty interesting set of numbers. So do watch out for that as well. Actually, 5paisa, Tata Steel Long, Swaraj Engines, all of these came out with very good numbers. I mentioned 5paisa because it's in connection with ICICI Securities. Again, that company had a very robust performance. So brokers seem to be milking it really and doing very well. So I wouldn't be surprised if 5paisa does well. But no, let's stick to that plate. Swaraj Engines and Tata Steel Long, both of these came out with very good numbers. Tata Steel Long, I'll tell you, the revenues are up 53%. There was a net profit versus a net loss for Tata Steel Long. EBITDA at 497 crores versus 136 crores and margins at 32%. So you can't find a fault really with these numbers. So don't be surprised if there's some more upsides here. I think Morgan Stanley today has come out with a note on Tata Steel itself, saying that they are positive on that. So watch out for both of the steel companies. Swaraj Engines, engine sales volumes were up 62%. EBITDA margins were up 170 basis points. Net profit was up 106%. So it did really well. Probably the wholesale tractor volume and inventory restocking at Mahindra and Mahindra are helping Swaraj Engines. Be that as it may, it is a good quarter and therefore should be mentioned. So if the Swaraj Engines or Tata Steel itself or 5paisa react, you know why they are reacting. 5paisa had a phenomenal rise in, I mean, they were into profits versus loss in the last quarter and last year, and therefore that should augur well. The other last interesting one is Indiabulls Housing Finance, wherein they've done a really interesting thing. They've entered into a co-lending arrangement with HDFC. So Indiabulls Housing Finance will originate retail loans through a jointly drawn up credit policy. That, I mean, it's pretty interesting, right, that they are doing this. And Indiabulls Housing Finance will retain 20% of the loans and 80% will be on HDFC's balance sheet. And that's pretty interesting because this is a part of the company's balance sheet light growth model. And this is pretty interesting. I don't know whether this is to be read well for HDFC as well individually. But yeah, this is good news. Morgan Stanley came out with a note, and they are saying that this will be a cornerstone of its new balance sheet light growth model. And this is a positive at the margin for Indiabulls Housing Finance, but execution will be the key. And for HDFC, this will be an opportunity to boost loan growth as well as earn higher yields. So maybe net positive for both. That's what Morgan Stanley is suggesting. So viewers, busy day at 9:15 because a lot of stocks could react. Unfortunately, the markets are going to start off lower. So don't know how each of these positive reactions could play out, but bottom-up stories anyway stay. I still repeat that some contra indicators, dealing room checks suggest that there is room for contra longs at about 14,100 odd, 14,100, 200 odd. So please keep that in mind. More importantly, stay safe. And if you are headed out for whatever reason, please wear your mask. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay safe.